Good evening, I'm Paul Offodds, and it's time for your Royals postseason report. The Royals' playoff percentage, as of right this moment, is 100% across every website that there is, because the Royals have clinched their first playoff berth since 2015. We now return you to your regularly scheduled Royals Rundown podcast.
Woo! Baby, the Royals are going to October. Let's go. Welcome to
I just need to clarify for Paul. This is not a regularly scheduled podcast.
No, that you know what? Paul has made very few errors since he has joined the podcast crew. But yeah, that was an error. This is a very special celebratory edition of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jeremy Greco. The other man you hear talking is Jeremy Greco as well, because I'm definitely Jacob Milham. I'm just so excited. I'm confused.
We're all Jeremy Greco.
We are all Jeremy Greco, and you know what, Jeremy? We're all wrong tonight as well. Everyone at Royals Review is wrong about the record, because
that
is in the postseason, baby. How are you feeling, Jeremy? This is exciting.
I am absolutely exhausted. It doesn't feel real because I got to go to the game tonight. It's in Atlanta. My parents live in Atlanta, so I came down to visit them, and I went to the game, bought my dad a ticket for his birthday. And we went to the game, and we watched the Royals just not play good. So, they lost that game, and then the Twins also lost, and that's all that they needed. So they're in, but I also am like, I wanted to watch them win and get in.
Yeah, that would have been nice. It would have been nice. But, hey, at least when we see the Royals play next, we know, without a doubt, no one can play spoiler. They are in the postseason for the first time in nearly a decade, thanks to the Twins losing this evening to the Baltimore Orioles. Just a very, like, this was the bow that we needed on this season. I think so many Royals fans were waiting on that other shoe to drop. And we thought that each one of the 7-game losing streaks was going to be that shoe, be that final nail in the coffin. But
Did we think that, Jacob?
Many Royals fans thought, not we, because you never did. Thanks to Paul always reminding us.
I refuse to press this panic button until the Royals aren't in a playoff spot. The Royals were never not in a playoff spot after that point. They briefly dipped out of the wild card in mid-July, and then they got back in, and yeah, they lost a bunch of games, but they still never looked back.
Exactly. And here we are now. Like, at this point, I get it. You have 2 more games against the Atlanta Braves, but all eyes have to be on what does Tuesday bring. So if the postseason started today, the Kansas City Royals would travel down to Houston to face off against the Houston Astros. Now, the Detroit Tigers are just 1 game ahead of the Royals, and the Royals do have the tiebreaker. So, I don't know. Let's say somehow the Tigers lose 2 games to the Chicago White Sox. I don't think that's happening, but maybe. If the Royals take 1 game from the Braves, then they should be back in that 5 seed, right, Jeremy? Am I doing my math correctly there?
Yep. Or if the Tigers lose 1 and the Royals win both of the remaining games.
Correct. So in that case, the Royals would go to Camden Yards to face off against the Baltimore Orioles. Both good opponents.
Who did just clinch the 4th seed.
Yeah, there we go. That is also very, very important. Because I know not a lot of Royals fans, but I have heard some Royals fans in the past couple of days still holding out hope for that 4 seed. You get home field advantage in the wild card series. That ship sailed a
Right.
while ago in my book, but that's just me, I guess.
Yeah, when they got swept by the Tigers, that was the end of
Yeah,
that.
that's what it seemed like. So, Jeremy, this is just, I mean, there's a lot to process from this. It is what a turnaround, what a just ringing endorsement for this management right now. Like I'm sorry to go from 56 wins 1 year to the playoffs the
Mm-hmm.
next is astounding, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I've spoken multiple times, I think now, about the fact that I was the most optimistic predictor for the Royals win total um in the preseason projections at Royals Review, and I predicted 84 wins and missing the postseason. Well, the Royals are at 85 wins and they are going to the postseason. There's no more if, ands, or buts. It's
It
happening.
is. It absolutely is. And you know what? We aren't guaranteed postseason baseball in Kauffman Stadium. That's not a guarantee. I certainly think there's a great chance that we will see the Royals in the playoffs in Kauffman Stadium. And I think that's the point where it's going to feel real. When Royals fans can go through those gates again and say, hey, we are here to see playoff baseball. And the wild card round has a lot of great memories in Royals fans' minds because, you know,
Sure
it
does.
only happened once and it was an absolute classic. So,
I still look back at that wild card game as my favorite memory of the Royal. Like, they won the World Series the next year. Don't care. That wild card game was my favorite part.
because that was just the turning point, it seemed, for the next 2 years. Like the
Yeah.
Royals weren't quote unquote supposed to even be in the wild card spot. Then by the end of that postseason, they were like the one of the odds on favorites to win the World Series the next year. Like we've seen how a resurgence, just a shocking performance, can be so valuable to a franchise. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen this year. I'm not saying they're going to go to the World Series or be dominant in 2025. I'm not saying any of that.
So, in fairness, the last 3 times they've gone to the playoffs, they've made it. The last 4 times, they've made it to the World Series. Wasn't 80 the last time before 85, and they played against the Phillies and lost to them, I think.
They technically made the playoffs in 81. During
Okay.
the strike shortened
So,
season.
4 of the last 5.
Yeah, I mean, still great success rate. I'm kind of with you, Jeremy. Like, this still just doesn't really feel real, especially after I only listened to the game, and the top of the ninth inning sounded very, very exciting. Tying run at the plate in Salvador Perez, but
It was.
it was just it would have been great to clinch it with a win, like you said. But all that matters is they are in. They have their ticket through the dance.
I have to say, I was even more excited than most people because I forgot about Ozuna scoring on the throwing error, and I thought they only needed a single to tie.
Oh, oh goodness. Wow. It just a great moment in Royals history. Now let's see what they can do with it. And I think one of the major factors for this team's success in the postseason is of course going to be their starting pitching. Now, Jeremy,
Yep.
I don't think there's any chance we see Cole Reagans on Sunday, right? Like, there's 0% chance that happens.
I think it was David Lesky, maybe some other people have written it too, that basically the idea that the Royals should have is Seth Lugo goes for 3 or 4 innings tomorrow, and maybe 2 or 3 innings tomorrow, and then skip Cole Reagans on Sunday, and Cole Reagans can go Tuesday, Seth can go Wednesday, and Waka can go Thursday. And that sounds about right to me. I know that technically the Royals still have something to play for, as we were talking about, that they could catch the Tigers if the Tigers lose at least one more game, but the odds don't feel in their favor
No,
for
they don't.
catching the Tigers. And so I feel like setting up the starting rotation is much more important than than trying to fight to go to Baltimore instead of Houston.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's enough of a difference there to make that make sense.
No, and I fully agree with you there. I would personally rather face the Orioles. But either series, you need your best starters available, and trying to play for that chance that you get one seed higher. Yeah, no, not worth it in my mind. So
If the Tigers were playing the Yankees, then it might be a conversation to
yeah,
have. But they're playing the White Sox, who just set the record for the most losses in a 162 game
yep,
season by losing tonight. They're now at 121. It's the Detroit Tigers. I have to do a mea culpa, Jacob.
boy.
I insisted for a month that the Tigers weren't real, that they were paper Tigers, and that they would not be able to catch up and go to the playoffs. And tonight they took their fate in their own hands and they won their game
Yes, they did.
to clinch their playoff berth. So I was wrong. The Tigers are for real. And you say you'd rather play the Orioles than the Astros, but the Orioles just shellacked the Twins 7-2. And what did the Astros do tonight? Let's see if I can find that real quick. I don't know where that is. But the point is, the Orioles are scary too.
Yes.
Like there's no easy teams.
No.
The Astros did beat the Guardians 5-2. So they're also scary. This is the playoffs. All the teams are good. That's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that includes the Royals.
Yes.
The Royals are still good. All those wins they got earlier this year, I know the offense has vanished outside of a couple games lately for a week and a half now. But my fingers are crossed that with a little bit of the pressure off, now that they're into the postseason, the next 2 days, they can swing easy, just going, hey, let's see what happens, man, because it doesn't matter. Right. And then maybe carry that into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Because that was one of the things I feel like the 2014 and 2015 Royals, especially the 2014 Royals, did in the playoffs, was after they won that first wild card game, I felt like they just kind of said, well, it doesn't matter. We have already done more than anyone thought was possible. So let's just win the whole dang thing. Let's just keep playing our brand of ball. Let's have fun. Let's go out there and do our best. And then they swept out the Angels. They swept out the Orioles. And they took the Madison Bumgarner Giants to 7 games.
Yeah. And
if it wasn't for an elite performance by Madison Bumgarner, if it wasn't for a diving stop by Joe Panic, they'd have won the whole dang thing.
Exactly. They asked the question, why not us? And they tried to find that answer. And they found it in Game 7 against the San Francisco Giants. These Kansas City Royals do have to ask themselves that question again. Because, frankly, every other, well, probably not the Guardians. It feels like every other team that is in the AL postseason field was expected to be there. You expected the Yankees, the Orioles, the Astros, even the Tigers. The Tigers were like the sexy off-season pick, you know?
I guess.
But they have to say, hey, like...
But the Twins were also... Everyone assumed the Twins are going to win the division and that it wasn't going to be close.
Correct. Everyone... It seemed like the strong opinion was it was going to be the Twins and then the Guardians. It's...
Right. And then the Royals and the Tigers would play close.
Yeah, exactly. So it is...
I know this is a complete tangent, but what are the odds you think that Rocco Baldelli is still the Twins manager in a couple of weeks?
35%. I think... Like
that high, huh?
Yeah, I'm not expecting it, but you can't ignore this big of a late season collapse And it just...
Well, and there's more than just the collapse, I think. It's his response, his reaction to the collapse. Um, paying close attention to the last few games, a lot of his managerial decisions were kind of called into question. I keep going back to when the Royals swept them in the final series against them, and he didn't even give a press conference, really. He just went out there and was like, yeah, this was a completely unprofessional series, and that's all I've got for you. Like, dude, your whole job, and I wrote about this a little bit, so this is maybe why I'm thinking about it more. Your whole job is to provide leadership for your team in the form of looking I think it's a lot of cases acting confident even when you aren't.
Right.
And when you come down on your team like that, and this what I mean when I say I wrote about this is that people say Q should be more fired up and he should criticize the players more, and I'm like, this is what happens when managers criticize players more. Pedro Gaffal criticizes players, fired. Rocco Baldelli criticizes players, doesn't seem like he's going to have a job. That's not how you keep your job.
Nope.
That's how you lose your clubhouse, and that's how you get fired. So I love the way Q is doing things just to try and bring things back to the Royals. He has been. You have to give, I think, the lion's share of the credit for this year to Bobby Witt Jr. and the starting rotation, but then I think Q and the coaching staff in general, but especially Q, just for his steady leadership and also his excellent tactical decisions. I think he's made great tactical decisions. Um, I think you have to give him a lot of credit for this turnaround with the Royals.
I fully agree with you there. And this is, I think we're going to have a lot of time to give flowers for this team because there's a lot of people who deserve it. And like that goes back to the point of the incredible turnaround in the win-loss column, but also in the perceived future of this franchise. You know, this time last year, there were still people kind of joking about like, oh, well, enjoy Bobby Witt while we got him because we're just going to trade him away in a couple of years or something. Or wondering if Salvador Perez was washed.
Yeah.
There, a lot of things have changed between now and a calendar year ago. And I'm still just solely focused on the playoffs right now. Like, because anything can happen. Anything can. And I'm so freaking excited, Jeremy. Do you have anything else for our listeners?
I look forward to, I think there's going to be a lot of really fun coverage over at Royals Review. Obviously you and I are going to podcast about all this. I think we're probably going to do a podcast at the conclusion of the season Sunday afternoon. That'll go up Monday morning. So this is the best time to be a Royals fan. I have been writing for Royals Review since 2016. This is my first chance to write about a team that is in the playoffs. And I couldn't be more excited about it. I hope you are all excited, and share all of your thoughts with us, on social media at Royals Review, in the comments here on Spotify or wherever you can find us. I just want to celebrate with you all. It's really frustrating and really upsetting to when the Royals are losing and everyone's so negative and upset. And I realized as I was watching the loss tonight, like how much less I was upset about the losing tonight without being on social media the whole time. But the best part of sports fandom is being able to share it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you'll all reach out and we can all have a good time. Whatever happens next, I hope nobody's going to get upset. If the Royals get swept out of the playoffs, I hope everyone is still excited about this team and the future of this team, because I know I will.
Exactly. I could not have said it any better, Jeremy. So everyone out there still listening, thank you for joining along with us for this impromptu special edition of the Royals Rundown podcast. Jeremy perfectly listed out where you can find us, who you should be following along with for all the best Kansas City Royals information out there, royalsreview.com. We're going to go and get out of here. I know Jeremy's tired. I know I'm tired. It is late on a Friday night, and it is way past our bedtime. So I am Jacob Milham. He is Jeremy Greco. Thank you for joining us this evening, and until next time, go Royals.